Southeast Queensland is going through an absolute infrastructure boom. In today's video, Simon and I wanted to bring you some of the bigger projects in Brisbane City, as well as what's going on down the Gold Coast and the Sunny Coast. What all of this infrastructure means for me and yourself as investors is the transition to the Queensland and Southeast Queensland that everybody's been talking about for the last 20 years. Beautiful. So in no particular order, what are some of the biggest projects coming into Brisbane as we speak? Now, the biggest infrastructure project occurring in Southeast Queensland right now is the Cross River Rail, which is going to cost over $6.8 billion to complete. Now, this is going to add an extra 10.2 kilometres of rail line connecting Duffy Park to Bowen Hills, which is expected to be completed at some point in 2024. So this is going to really connect the Brisbane CBD, the inner 5 to 10 kilometre radius of the Brisbane CBD. Right now, there's only one way to get across that river on public transport. So this is going to make it a hell of a lot quicker for a lot of those folks living in the inner city to get to and from work. You know, I remember personally how big a deal it was when they did the Sydney Harbour Bridge Tunnel and how much of an impact that's had in a positive way for all of those suburbs along those train lines. Now, the next one is the Queen's Wharf, which is a huge redevelopment that's going to equate to over 12 hectares of land redevelopment and 15 hectares of water development as well. They're going to be putting in 4 luxury hotels, a new casino. They'll be putting in 2,000 residential apartments, and this is due to be completed at some point in 2023. However, when you go to Queen Street at the moment and you look at it, definitely doesn't look like it's going to be completed this year, but certainly on the horizon. Now, this project is costing $3.6 billion, so huge amount of investment to get this thing built. Now, all of the major airports in Queensland have been going through some major upgrades at the moment. So the Brisbane airport's just had a whole bunch of extra parking put in, which is good for me, as well as a new runway, which is so significant. I know on the Sunny Coast, a second runway has just been put in, and a couple of years back in the Gold Coast as well. So all of that is in preparation for the 2032 Olympic Games. Now, thank God for that new runway on the Sunshine Coast. I used to get the most anxiety flying into the Sunshine Coast because it used to be Australia's shortest runway and you come in bouncing all over the place. Now it's just a nice, calm, smooth, beautiful entrance to the beautiful Sunshine Coast. But yeah, thank you, Queensland government, for spending some money on that new runway. It literally feels like when you hit that runway, someone's ripped up the handbrake in a crappy old Toyota and everyone's going through the front window. Hey, another project going into Brisbane is a $2 billion Brisbane Live new entertainment arena that should be able to host 18,000 spectators within the arena. Obviously to bring more events to the Brisbane area. You know, two of my favourite personally as someone who lives on the Sunny Coast and also invests on the Sunny Coast is the heavy rail and the light rail. So apparently they're going to connect from Beerwah into Maroochydore and have a whole bunch of stops for heavy rail, which will be so significant for the Sunny Coast. I know when they put that heavy rail into the Gold Coast, I saw property prices in some suburbs go up literally $600K to $1 million as that went through. And then the light rail as well, apparently they're planning on putting it from Caloundra, apparently all the way up to Noosa at some point over the longer term future. So those things are going to be significant. I've also heard in the Gold Coast, they're going to continue on with that light rail. That has been so significant for the suburbs that have already received it. Obviously for those people living there, massive, massive pain in the ass while it was being put in place. I'm assuming it'll be about 10 years of pain on the Sunny Coast while they do it as well. But longer term, it'll be a great thing for kids, residents, students, tourists, and locals as well. Now, another cool one that's going into Brisbane along the river there is just called Waterfront Brisbane, where they're spending roughly around $2.1 billion to add some more commercial dwellings there, to put in some riverfront dining, a public plaza, a river walk, a new ferry terminal. And this one's expected to be completed around 2027. So just bringing some new infrastructure and amenities along that waterfront. What they're trying to do here is make it a little bit more like Darling Harbour down in Sydney, obviously a heavy tourist destination where people can come and enjoy all of those amenities. You know, we grew up in Sydney and I love Sydney and I love Brisbane. There is a bit of a difference to me when I'm having a beer at the Opera Bar looking over the Harbour Bridge versus the brown snake river of Brisbane. But yeah, good on you, Brisbane. Spend some money. Now, another one that's going on in the Brisbane CBD of Victoria Park is the huge Parkland redevelopment there. It's going to be double the size of the Brisbane Botanical Gardens with canopy walks, kayaks and swimming lagoons, wetlands, a butterfly house that you can actually walk through, a food forest and a produce garden for the locals that live in the area. So I absolutely love that one. You know, lots of cool spaces for people to enjoy the outdoors and, you know, get your community together and start adding a little bit of value. On top of all the rail going in, Brisbane's also working on the Brisbane Metro, which will be sort of like a high-speed bus network of 60-odd green buses that can sort of fly around the city and have their own lanes to cruise through in. So plenty going on at the moment. And, you know, this is like scraping literally the top of the iceberg here. Like the amount of stuff going on in the Gold Coast at the moment in terms of mainly private infrastructure. They're expected over the next 4 to 5 years to literally double the Gold Coast skyline.
Wow.
Like new residential, commercial things going on. You've also got the new Southport CBD in the Gold Coast. On the Sunny Coast, same thing. Not as much high density, but you've got a lot of medium density residential going in. And then on top of that, you've got the Maroochydore CBD being completely redeveloped as we speak at the moment. I'm like ridiculously excited about what's to come.
Yeah, me too, because we know that two of the major fundamental drivers of property values in Australia is population growth and infrastructure growth. Now, with the huge amounts of population growth that's being experienced in southeast Queensland right now, that is expected to continue into the future for a long period of time. This is bringing all of these new infrastructure projects, which is adding value to the area. It's connecting southeast Queensland, making it a more livable location.
You know, to round out, Brisbane's had a good run. Like when we look at 50 years worth of data from Simon Priestley at Propertyology, he reckons it's averaged about just over 8% per annum. When you look at houses, there are some incredible opportunities for investors at the moment. Whether you're interested in affordable houses near the city or the beach or affordable houses in that middle ring, there's the opportunity to grab great pieces of land, to knock down and rebuild, to buy established homes and renovate them, or to just buy super, super simple set and forget properties. There's also the opportunity to buy a home and build a granny flat and get dual income. We really like it. And when it comes to Brisbane, it's really important to stick to the fundamentals, which means buying close to the city or the beach, buying in a quality suburb with great infrastructure, great schools, and a high percentage of mums and dads living there, buying the big piece of land with the quality houses in the good pockets of a suburb in the nice quiet streets, and keeping away from the busy main roads and right on top of the schools and the cemeteries and the commercial. And just really following what's always worked for Sydney, for Melbourne, and for the other great markets in Australia. But when the ABS says 5 million people in Brisbane alone in the next 22 years, and then you'll have the Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast as well, it really is going to become one incredible place to be. And then you throw in an Olympic Games in 2032 and what that did to prices and rents in Sydney back between 1997 and 2003. I'm very excited and grateful that I've got a couple of assets here at the moment, and hopefully we'll accumulate a few more before the games.
Woo! That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Getting cool, bro. Yeah. Oh, sweaty. So sweaty. Oh, that's good. Look at that. So nice, eh? Oh.